In the past few episodes, we visited historic sites all throughout Southern California, and I guess the running theme has really been that Southern California is a melting pot. There are a lot of different religions, cultures, people, beliefs that have come together in this area for hundreds of years. So today I thought I'd take you to visit the Mission San Diego de Alcalá, one of the beautiful Spanish pieces of architecture and history located here in San Diego, California. As I was walking up to the mission, I noticed these kind of green bells here marked El Camino Real. And these bells actually mark the beginning of El Camino Real, which was the King's Highway. And it stretched 600 miles north to Mission San Francisco Solana in Sonoma. And the 21 California missions are situated all along this route. So I thought that was kind of neat to know that we're here at the beginning of El Camino Real and that they have these neat bells here marking it. Before I go in to explore the mission, I wanted to, come out front here and give you a few shots of the facade of the mission. And while, of course, this looks to be extremely old, much of this mission was actually rebuilt in the 1930s to represent what the mission would have looked like in 1813. So while it was founded in 1769, relocated to this exact location in 1774, a series of attacks and natural disasters and just decay and wear and tear over time have led the mission to basically fall into, like I said, disrepair, buildings to be taken down, rebuilt. And again, this is a rebuild largely from about 1930, showing what it looked like in 1813. But again, a lot of aspects of this are original and try to represent what it would have been like in that early period of a Spanish mission here in California. I'm already loving this just looking at the tablet, which rightfully dubs this California's first mission. It has the Daughters of the American Revolution and the Sons of the American Revolution crests. So the San Diego chapter of the DAR and SAR are involved in this as well. Again, always there to preserve history in any way we can. One really neat thing about these grounds and throughout, they have these signs which provide, a little bit of context in some of the history. This one really kind of caught my eye because it talks about different Spanish explorations to the area. Of course, all the way back in 1542, Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo, a Portuguese navigator, came out here and into the harbor, and that area says named San Miguel in observance of the feast day of St. Michael the Archangel. And this brings us all the way down to 1769. And here in 1769 it reads, initially 4 expeditions were sent forth, 2 land expeditions and 2 sea expeditions, the San Carlos and San Antonio. And on July 16, 1769, on a site overlooking the bay, Mission San Diego de Alcalá was founded as the first mission in Alta California. The mission was moved to the present site in 1774 to be closer to the American Indian population, a better source of water and more fertile soil. So one thing to remember about Mission San Diego de Alcalá is that it's an active parish. It's an active Catholic church. So I didn't want to, talk or make any kind of live active videos within the church itself. But once you do leave there, you come out in here to the garden, which is absolutely beautiful. Of course, they have a lot of native plants and flowers and things that you can see. They also have a lot of statues, one to St. Joseph, and of course the one over here to Father Junipero Serra, who is a Franciscan friar considered the founder of San Diego de Alcalá and the founder of the Spanish mission system. And here we see what most of us would just call this the bell tower. It's actually known as the Campanario, and it's 46 feet high, and it holds, of course, the mission bells. Here we see 5 up there in the bell tower. It says here that the crown-topped bell on the lower right is named Ave Maria Purissima Immaculate Mary. It weighs 805 pounds and was cast in 1802. A crown-topped bell was usually supplied by the Spanish king and cast in the royal foundry in Barcelona at the king's expense, or made in a country ruled by Spain. Right, now I'm here in the museum, and it looks like it kind of follows a chronological pattern. Of course, starting with history on the native people, the Kumeyaay who lived here in this region, and that were really what the Spanish missionaries, the reason the Spanish missionaries were here for conversion and integration into the Spanish way of life, which of course had, wasn't always savory, wasn't always good, but it is part of that history. What's neat is they do have some pre-Hispanic Indian pottery and some original pieces that were found here in the area, which is beautiful. Of course, they have artifacts and bits of history about a lot of the statues and things here at the mission, which I'm not going to bore you by reading every single one of them, but it is cool to kind of see a lot of these original pieces. In this case, some locks from the mission, branding irons, things like that. One neat thing that I noticed, if you watched the Battle of San Pasqual video I made, you may recall the name Andres Pico. And in 1821, when Mexico gained its independence from Spain, the mission and all these lands were given to different people and the livestock in the main building of the mission. And this is actually an inventory of Mission San Diego. And if you look there at the bottom, you'll actually see the signature of Andres Pico. And again, it says, after secularization, Mission San Diego lands were given to Mexican citizens. This display is pretty neat. It's talking about how the Franciscans were great diarists and kept meticulous records of their daily routines. And of course, anything with diaries or first-hand accounts, as most of you know, provides really great insight into how those people thought, what they did every day. And I'm always been fascinated by diaries and those first-hand accounts, so it's cool to note the Franciscans were such great record keepers, because it gives us again some insight into that history here at the mission. Another interesting bit of history associated with the Spanish missions involves none other than Abraham Lincoln. In 1862, Abraham Lincoln actually returned 22 acres of the original 55,000 acres of this mission back to the Catholic Church, while today the church has approximately 9 acres of those 22, ultimately of the original 55,000. And these Lincoln documents that you can find at some of these missions talks about how Lincoln signed the mission lands back over to the Catholic Church in 1862. So now this section here actually goes into the U.S. military history here at the mission. So after the Mexican-American War ended in 1848 and the United States reacquired Mission San Diego de Alcalá, the United States Cavalry actually set up here at the mission from 1850 until 1857. And they do have some original artifacts and things that were found here at the mission associated with the Army at that time. Some of these are pretty neat. You see this saddle flask? It says these flasks are part of a cache of 20 bottles found at Mission San Diego. And that is just cool. Glassware. Down here, of course, we see different eating utensils. Of course, clay pipes, different military buttons that you would have seen from military uniforms. Here's some from a U.S. Army coat and various buttons. And over here we have some weapons and other military items that were found here at the mission. Of course, we see a flintlock pistol there, and probably one of the cooler things here is a U.S. artillery sword from circa 1840 to 1865, and this was found here on the mission grounds in its original sheath. You can see kind of the leather eaten away, and up here is just a replica of what that would have looked like, or I guess what it does look like. And of course, a candle mold. Many of you have seen one of those. But one other connection that I think is kind of neat, another connection to a previous video I made, is the Mormon Battalion. So they actually passed through this area, past the mission during their famous march of the Mormon Battalion. So if you haven't yet, check out my other video on that. It kind of goes into the whole history. Just outside the mission here, you can actually see some areas that have been excavated and looked at. And this area in front of us, actually, with the tiles on the ground, originated from around 1806 and was the convento, which was really where it was a friary. It's where the friars lived. And it's kind of neat to see kind of some of the excavated areas and, you know, the kind of groundwork and the base and the foundations of where some of these buildings would have been here. So, of course, this rebuilt mission from over the years is on the original site, but of course it covered a lot more area than it does today. Mission San Diego is just one beautiful example of Spanish history and architecture here in Southern California. And you know, I've been to a couple of the Spanish missions within the 21 that are within the California mission system, and time and time again I find that the one here in San Diego is my favorite. It's not just because it was the original one and it was founded even before the United States was founded. They just do a great job of interpreting the history, of discussing and remembering the Native American people that were here and that were part of the mission system, those mission Indians. And again, it's just such a beautiful building, and the fact that it's an active church, an active parish, and you can come here for Mass if you would like, is just such a neat part of it that I think people kind of forget about, or maybe it gets lost on them when they're visiting. And it's just beautiful, and I really enjoy it. And if you ever get a chance to come visit any of these missions here in California or elsewhere, I encourage you to do it, because you're not only going to learn a lot about, you know, religious history, both the good and the bad. You're also going to learn about the mission Indians, the people that were part of that community and that culture at the time. Again, both the good and the bad. And that's what history is, right? You kind of see it all, and it's stuff that we have to embrace, and we have to take the time to learn and interpret and study and discuss. And that's the beauty of history. And that is all I have for you folks. Now it's on to the next journey.